Okay, hello guys, Miss Albertson here, just going to show you a few things about our sewing machine. So let's get started. I have some thread here that I'm going to show you how to thread your machine and your bobbin. So our first step, take off your spool cap, and you should have your string so that it's coming underneath and not over the top. So we're just going to put that on there. And a lot of people put it just like that. That's the wrong way. It actually messes up our tension, so we have to just put it right like that. And then we're going to take our string, put it right through our tension disc here. And when we're following this, we follow our dotted line. So we need to come, and I just put my finger here so it holds some tension. We go around and then over. And then the next thing is we have our bobbin. So we have a few holes in our bobbin, and if we just go through that way, our string, when it turns, will not go on the bobbin. So we need to come in the middle of our bobbin and up. Okay? So then we're just gonna put it right on here and click it into place. Now we take our foot pedal, which is right down here. Check out that. And then we're gonna hold this string nice and tight, and we're just gonna start winding. So you would wind, if you're doing like a really big project, you'd wind this all the way until it stops. Or if you're just going to do a small project, then you don't have to wind your bobbin all the way. But you can then just like pull that or cut it off. And then we're just going to pop this off. And I'm gonna show you a little thread cutter right here. You just put it there and it cuts your thread, so that's kind of nice. So we have our bobbin. When we put our bobbin in, you want to make sure that it looks like a P, not like a backwards or a 9, okay? So it should look like a P, and we're just going to pop this open and put our bobbin right in there, and then we're going to thread our machine. So we essentially, you can start right over with your thread on your pin, spool pin, right under here to our guide. So we're following our directions, we're going down and we're looping back up. And this little guide, sometimes it's hidden, and so if you take your hand wheel and you turn it towards you, then this will pop up right there for you. So if you're like, oh no, mine's missing, you can just use your hand wheel and you'll be able to find it. So we have to go behind this. Sometimes people forget that or miss that step. And then when we are at the step where you need to make sure your needle is at the highest position. So down here, that's the low position, and this is the highest position. So at this point, you need to go right behind this tiny little hook. You can see that. So this hook right here, just behind there. And then you have two options from here. You can simply take your string and stick it right through there. Okay, just like that. Or this little white thing here is a thread, an automatic threader. Some of them work, some of them do not. There needs to be a little hook that goes through the eye of your needle, and then you wrap it around that hook and then underneath the other hook, and then it should pull it back. If after that it doesn't pull it back, then our hook is like a little bit bent, so that's part of our issue right here. So if that's the case, then you're just going to, you can use the threader if it works on your machine. Otherwise, you're just gonna stick it right through the eye of the needle. And sometimes if you have a scissors handy, you can just cut the end, and that makes it a little bit easier for you. All right, and now we are at the last step before we get to start practice sewing. So in your left hand, I have the string that's coming from my needle. And then my right hand, I'm turning towards me so that my needle goes all the way down and revelates all the way back up. So if you see it, just a string just grabbed that, so I'm going to just yank with my left hand until I see a loop. So there's a loop right here, and all you're going to do is just pull that loop, and now you have both of your strings that you need to sew ready to go. You need to push them right back behind here, and you are ready to sew. And so I'm just going to put my cap back on there, and I'm going to check a few settings. So our width is at 0 because we're going to sew in a straight line. Our tension is at like 3 or 4. 4 usually works perfect. We need to have our stitch length on about 3 or 4, and then our stitch style selection is going to be straight, okay? So now you see these probably by your machines, or you'll just grab a scrap piece of fabric. And when we start sewing, we want our presser foot to line up with our fabric, okay? So I have it about where I want it, and I just lift it down, or with our presser foot lift, and I turn my hand wheel towards me so that we always start with our needle down. If you start with it up, sometimes the machine just comes unthreaded, so that's why you always just want to have the needle down into your fabric. And then I'm keeping the edge of my presser foot lined up with the side of my fabric, okay? And then I'm going to show you a technique called back stitching. We always want to back stitch. The reason being is if we do not back stitch, what we just sewed might fall apart because we haven't secured those stitches. So I'm going to show you. So we're going to press our foot pedal, and we're going to go forward about 2 or 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to press this little button here, or reverse, and hold it in, and then I'm going to go back over those same stitches. Okay, and then I'm going to go forward. That is back stitching. You only do it at the beginning and the end. So there's the beginning and here's the end. So you sew pretty much to the end. Sometimes you just can use your hand wheel too if you're getting close. And I'm going to press this down, and we're going to go back. Okay, and then I'm going to sew all the way off of my fabric. Okay, every time you're done, you just lift this up and we pull. Sometimes you just have to give it a little tug, and then we'll cut our threads. If you cut it super short, that's how your machine gets unthreaded, so just pull it back and have your little tails hanging back there. So that is just the basics, and hope you enjoyed this video.